BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Thomas Duncan, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast, all the news, views and analysis you need on Monday the 20th of January. And it's been an interesting weekend of Scottish Cup action.
As Dessers goes in, another chance for the hat-trick round the goalkeeper. Can he finish it? He can! Cyril Dessers has a hat-trick.
There was no fairy tale for Fraserburgh as Rangers eased into the next round, while Falkirk fell to Raith Rovers in Sunday's other match. There was no shortage of action on Saturday.
Slides it for Maida. Massive chance for Maida! Celtic back in front!
Wins for St Johnstone, Celtic, Aberdeen and Livingston, among others. Plus, we pay tribute to one of the great characters of Scottish football.
You think of Jimmy Calderwood and you smile, just because of the football he wanted to play, but also because of the personality he was.
Yes, we salute the former Aberdeen and Dunfermline manager Jimmy Calderwood.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sports Scotland.
Right, alongside me, it's the McGowan Show. We'll have to rename this episode. Stephen McGowan, Scottish Daily Mail's chief football writer, and Ryan McGowan, the Livingston defender who's survived what I imagine was a rowdy trip down the road from Dingwall. Ryan, was it?
No, those days are kind of gone of the rowdy trips with the beers up the back of the bus. But
Are you down the front?
Yeah, no, I am up the back of the bus. But it was a tough game and one that makes the trip a little bit sweeter, especially kind of getting the last minute one in extra time. But I kind of miss those days of being able to have a couple of drinks on the back of the bus.
Yeah, indeed. Right, well, let's get straight into the action. We'll start at Ibrox. Rangers getting the job done, Stephen, pretty comfortably, minimum of fuss. Exactly what they needed, I suppose, heading to Old Trafford on Thursday.
Yeah, I don't think, we quite often get into the habit of saying it's the perfect preparation for a European game. I don't think you would say that is the perfect preparation for playing Manchester United. What it did allow Philippe Clement to do was to rest a lot of his key players, his main men, and he gave some of the kids a run out as well. And probably more tellingly, gave Cyril Dessers a run out, who has been a little bit unhappy with not starting games recently. And typical Dessers, he misses a sitter in the first 7 minutes. He hits the post, but he still scores 3 goals. So it was Rangers, as we've known them, not entirely consistent, but a pretty comfortable performance and result in the end.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It was like vintage Cyril Dessers, wasn't it? Like,
Yeah.
Scores a hat-trick, sets up Ross McCausland, misses a few other chances, hits the post, an absolute sitter, as you mentioned. That it just encapsulated his Ibrox career, didn't it?
It does, and it's funny, it's interesting using past tense here, because, I think there is a question mark about that, because we asked Clement after the game, will he rule out Dessers leaving this month, and he didn't really do it. But I think the key for Rangers is if he does go out the door, can they bring in somebody of a kind of equal kind of calibre and quality? I think a lot of fans would say yes, they can. But actually, I think Dessers does a good job, as his figures show, because what is that, 16 goals for the season now? So, he can be infuriated, he can be much maligned, but he does get the goals in certain games.
Yeah, well, he's scored more goals than any other Scottish top-flight player this season in terms of, I think he's now ahead of Nicholas Kuhn. Now, I think a lot of the goals have come against bottom 6 teams, and he has got a couple in Europe as well, but maybe questions about who the goals are against sometimes, but you can't argue with the numbers, Ryan.
No, exactly. And I think as a striker, you're always kind of judged on those numbers. And yeah, like you said, I think last season he was up around the 20 mark, and again this season he's probably going to do that. But I think when you're at a club like Rangers and things aren't going well, they tend to try and pick somebody out and not almost take their frustrations out on them. And I think, like you both have been saying, he kind of sums up Rangers' season so far in terms of his performances. He can do it all in one game. He can have a really poor game. Other times I watch him and think, he has a little bit of everything and could really go to the top. And I think that's probably where a lot of the frustration happens, is because he scores some goals where you think, how's he done that? And then you have chances like today where he misses an absolute sitter and you think, if he was putting those chances away, he could be a really, really top player.
Yeah, other positives from a Rangers point of view, some young players getting some game time, Mason Munning goals. Finlay Curtis came off the bench, was bright, went close to scoring. And Clinton Nsiala, Ryan, he's scored his first professional goal as well. He seems to have settled in not too bad to that Rangers defence. As a defender yourself, what have you made of him in recent weeks?
Yeah, I think he's done well. Coming in as a young player to such a big club as Rangers and trying to establish yourself is so difficult. And trying to get in front of those players are starters. But, with their injury troubles that they've had this season, this was a big opportunity for him to get some minutes and really showcase what he can do. And, so far I've liked what I've seen. But, I think to be at a club like Rangers and get regular game time, you really, really need to be a top quality player. So I'm sure Rangers fans will be hoping that, he can progress and develop into that. But I think... there's the situation they are in the league. I don't think it's really that good of a time to be blooding, that type of player in those situations, because, the last thing you want to do as a defender is make a mistake and drop them some more points. And so I think, the way that Clement's kind of handling him just now seems to be sort of the right path for this season, especially.
Yeah, what do you make of him, Stephen? I mean, obviously, I think Rafael Fernandez, the new loan signing from Lille, was paraded at half-time at Ibrox. I don't know what that means for Clinton Nsiala and whether, he has a future in the starting 11 going forward for the remainder of the season.
It's interesting because I've done a run of Rangers games just in the last couple of weeks, and I noticed a real difference on him against Aberdeen on Wednesday. Just thought he looked a lot more confident, just finding his feet. And he was pinging the ball around, pinging some passes with a really good cross for one of the late goals, I think for Leon Balogun. So I think it's just a case of give him the time and let him grow and let him develop. But I tend to agree with Ryan because so much of what you heard about Nsiala was that he could be a bit erratic. So you would be really curious to see whether Clement would throw him in against Manchester United, but then would you hand the debutant his first game there? Tough selection choice, that.
Yeah, interesting. We'll see you on Thursday. And just a word on Fraserburgh, Stephen as well. They'll be proud of what they gave. It was always going to be tough for them, Highland League side. And I guess I just felt from that moment where Mason Munn passes it to Scott Barber and he's got that chance to score. If that goes in and it's 1-1 heading into half time, then, who knows, they probably don't hold on or go on to win the game, but at least it would have been a special moment for them.
Well, they couldn't have picked a player they would have wanted it to fall to more. I mean, I think he scored something like 270 goals for Fraserburgh, Scott Barber. So, I mean, he is absolutely the man they would want in that situation, and that would have been electrifying. I think quite very much so in terms of the Ibrox atmosphere at half-time as they gone in 1-1 against 50th Fraserburgh. I think you're right. They would have pulled through. They would have won anyway. But I thought, listen, Ross County, who are a Premiership team, who are their Highland League forebears, if you like, they lost 6 goals at Ibrox early in the season. Okay, against a stronger team, but I thought 5-0 was a pretty respectable result in the circumstances.
Yeah, well, I was there the week before, and St Johnstone were 3-0 down after 25 minutes.
Yeah.
So they did not disgrace themselves in any way, Fraserburgh, but they exit the competition this year. The other game from Sunday, Raith Rovers coming from behind to beat Falkirk in extra time, 2-1. Big win for Raith Rovers. Ryan and Barry Robson getting his first win as Raith Rovers boss. Were you surprised that they managed to get the better of Falkirk?
Yes and no. We've played them 3 times this season, won twice and lost once. And I think, where they find themselves in the league is probably not correct. I think they're a much better team than what they have done. Obviously, with the manager situation, Ian Murray leaving at the start of the season, it was a long time between bringing someone else in, then he leaves. They have a core of a really, really good squad. And, the 3 times that we've played them, they've been, 3 close games. We were probably fortunate to win 2 of them. I think they were both last minute sort of winners, 1-0 and then 2-1 at home. Then got beat 2-1 away. So, we're sitting 2nd or 3rd in the championship and having real difficult games against them. That's twice they've beaten Falkirk this season. I think probably they're in a false position at the moment, but I wasn't surprised to see them win today. I think they are a real good quality team, and they just need a little bit of stability off the field and have the sort of players all pulling in one direction. And I think they could make a little bit of a late run towards the end of the championship season for sure.
Yeah, Falkirk will be disappointed as well. Obviously, I think that's their first home loss since was it July 2023 in the League Cup against Dundee United. They've been unbelievable, but I guess the upshot for John McGlynn and his side is maybe they can focus on that title race, Ryan. Although I guess you're hoping that you maybe would have liked them to stay in the cup and have that wee bit of a distraction.
Yeah, fingers crossed that's the wheels off the bandwagon and they just collapse for the rest of the season. But yeah, I think in defeats you always try and look for a little bit of positives, and that's what John will probably be trying to get across to his players is that okay, obviously they wanted to win and go on a cup run. Everyone does, but they can now fully focus on the league campaign, and they've got off to a tremendous start to the season, and they are the league leaders, and the table doesn't lie, especially after so far into the season. So they're definitely the ones for us to catch, and there's a number of teams I think that can slowly try and reel them in, but they'll be looking to try and keep that distance and keep us all at arm's length. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they kind of come back. But so far this season, any kind of setbacks they've had done, they've shown that they are a good quality team. They've got good players in there, and they've kind of answered all of those questions that have been thrown at them.
Right, let's go back to Saturday's action then and start in reverse order. Celtic Park, Kilmarnock giving up, a good fight, going down 2-1 in the end at Celtic Park, which, a lot of teams go to Celtic Park and take much worse defeats than that. Disappointing nonetheless for Derek McInnes. At the moment, Stephen, it almost feels like a classic Celtic season of recent times where it feels like they always start like a train, get a lead, then they kind of grind it out, don't play, too well in the, Christmas, January period. And then they, maybe when they go out of Europe, they March comes around and then they kick on again and finish really strong. It feels like they're maybe in that kind of wobbly period in the middle of the season. Is that fair?
Yeah, well, there's no winter break this year, remember. Normally they do benefit from a week in Dubai, as most people do.
Yeah.
I think there's a slightly concerning pattern for them just now, because if you remember Dundee, that 3-3 draw the other day, they were 1-0 up, they didn't take their chances, and they gave the opposition a window of opportunity. I think the same thing happened against Kilmarnock yesterday, where they were basically cruising. They should have been out of sight. Big chances for Kyogo, big chance for Rio Hitati, thumped over the bar. And again, they give the opposition an impetus to get back in the game and turn it into a war of attrition. And I think Brendan Rodgers will be a bit concerned about that, because let's not make any bones about this. Young Boys is the biggest game of the season. If they beat Young Boys, if they get into the playoffs of the Champions League, I think people will see real progress from Celtic's perspective. So he's going to have to hope that the strikers, Kyogo in particular, find the shooting boots on Wednesday night, because I think it will define Celtic season.
Yeah, as well. Adam Ida's struggling a bit as well to make the same impact he did last year. And it is difficult, I suppose. It's just the volume of games has been so quick, and then they've got to go to the Champions League again on Tuesday, which, as you say, Stephen, is such a massive game. And I wonder what fettle they'll be in.
I just think that I suppose Ryan will know this better than anybody. I just think that a lot of teams and players look as if they're running it empty just now. I think they're asking an awful lot of players. They're not robots. 3 games a week. Really very little respite or recreation or ability for even coaches and managers to train players, because it's just training, game, rest. I just think the impact is showing in Celtic much as showing in so many other teams. The problem is that they do have such an important period coming up with Young Boys, and if they don't get the result they need there, they then have to go to Aston Villa. They won't want to go there needing something, even if Aston Villa are safely into the playoffs by then, or even into the last 16.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kilmarnock, Ryan, they were really brave in the second half. They basically, left their defenders, just to defend one-on-one with Celtic's attackers, chucked the kitchen sink at it, and, were maybe unlucky in the end, but it was quite brave from Derek McInnes.
Yeah, I think so. And, that's what you kind of have to do. That's why everyone does love the Cup, I guess. If you lose 3 or 4-1, at least you gave it a little bit of a shot. Whereas, especially myself, I've been to Celtic Park a couple of times, and you're thinking, we're starting to worry about the goal difference here if they start going in it. And, so, yeah, they do have to be... They can kind of throw caution to the wind and try and go for it, because, like you said, you do sometimes when you're playing against Celtic and they miss a couple of opportunities, then you nick one. It's just human nature to start thinking this could be our day, and it could be a little bit of a cup upset. But also I think, I'm not sure I agree with Celtic having a bit of a wobble. They have dropped a couple of points that you're not expecting them to, but at the same time, you don't get that level of performance and position of where they are. I think that's just more of the standards that they've set at the start of the season. They're probably not matching that, but I'm sure Celtic in the last couple of seasons, when they've needed to put in a big performance and they've needed to get a result, they always seem to do that. And I'm quietly confident that they'll get something during the week in the Champions League and progress through to the sort of playoff rounds.
Yeah, I think you've got to feel for Kilmarnock and their fans, because all you want is a decent draw, first round of the Scottish Cup that the Premiership sides are in, and you get Celtic away from home. It's literally the worst draw possible. But they gave it a good fist of it. Right, let's move on to St Johnstone, Ryan, your old team. Huge result for them. I think they would probably trade it for a league win next week, mind you, against the same opposition at McDiarmid Park, but nonetheless, good win and a clean sheet, remarkably. Do you think it could be a turning point for Simo Valakari and his team?
I think they have to use it as a turn. They really don't have any other option. Like you said, I'm pretty sure they would have rather the 3 points and been knocked out of the cup. But I think you have to take all of the confidence of not only beating Motherwell, who, yes, they've been a little bit hot and cold, but they are, a lot of points ahead of St Johnstone at this moment in time. By all accounts, I obviously didn't watch the game, but by all accounts, I thought St Johnstone were really, really good in the first half, which is, I think they've shown that through spells under the new manager. But I think probably the second half, I think, is what the fans would really look forward to and cling to. Holding that 1-0 lead, keeping a clean sheet, showing a little bit of grit and determination to get the result and get through to the next round is what they're going to need between now and the end of the season, because the Premiership is so hard to not only win points but to keep clean sheets, and that will be key to them to being in survival. If they can keep clean sheets and not let teams get opportunities so easily, then it gives themselves a little bit of a fighting chance to sort of claw those teams back that are above them and make it a real sort of challenge to stay in the league this season.
In terms of Motherwell, Stephen, I was a bit surprised at some of the scenes at the end. They took a big travelling support to McDiarmid Park, and they really were not happy at going out the cup. Unhappy at Stuart Kettlewell, who had in a nice way, but a wee bit of a pop back, kind of pointing to their achievements post-match that they've, and also the injury list, which is growing at the moment after we've just talked about the schedule. It has taken its toll on Motherwell, certainly. So what's going on there, do you think?
The trouble is, you're just not allowed to lose to St Johnstone, are you, at the moment? I mean, that's the fact of the matter. If you lose to St Johnstone, it seems a really bad result. But I think possibly Simo Valakari he's brought in Victor Griffiths, he's brought in a decent keeper, Andy Fisher. I think he is maybe going to start to turn things around if they get Yeremenko in and what have you. And it was just bad timing for Motherwell, because I think there's something, was it 9 injuries, was it? So they had a real raft of key players missing. I think it's only 1 win in 9 now. So they are. I think it's fair to say they are having a wobble. And they're going to have to try and...
That's a proper wobble.
That's a proper wobble, right. I think they are going to have to try and turn that around quickly. But maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, that result against St Johnstone won't look quite so bad, because the one thing with this league, as we've seen with Hibernian, is that you can get teams can lose a real long list of games, and then they can win 4 or 5 in the bounce. And you do wonder whether actually St Johnstone may just have turned the corner a little bit. No consolation to Motherwell, because going out of the Scottish Cup is painful, and I think the chances at the end to get something to take at the extra time, we couldn't take them. Painful one for them, I think, all round, and for their supporters.
Yeah, so many games, we don't have time to go into any great depth on any of them. Big win for Aberdeen, obviously breaking their winless streak away at Elgin after being given a bit of a scare in the opening stages. And a good win for Ayr United as well, putting 8 past Broxburn. And, some might have eyed that as a bit of a shock, but definitely not to be. And then, obviously, plenty of drama in your game, Ryan. 119th minute winner. Potentially the most bizarre penalty award of the season, with Akil Wright punching that one. I was watching the highlights. I could see your face as you almost couldn't believe what you'd just seen while you appealed to the referee. A quiet afternoon for you?
Yeah, it was probably a really good cup tie. Probably wasn't that much quality as you can imagine, up there with the pitch and the players that were on show, I guess. But no, it was, I felt quietly confident going into the game. We have played well this season in games that we've had to sort of win. We're full of confidence. We had a decent enough game plan, albeit we do have a couple of injuries. And then, Ross County when the draw came out, we were thinking this is a really good opportunity. Then they went on a bit of a run. I think they won 3 away games in a row, and they started to pick up a little bit of form. So, it was a good judge and a good test for a lot of our players who, have possibly not played in the Premier League against that type of opposition before. But, I thought it was a good game. Obviously, went in front through that handball, which... as a defender, I'm not. I wish I could ask him what he was doing, but we were delighted to get that. And then, so the second half was a little bit of a ding dong. They scored a couple of from kind of second ball set pieces type thing, and we scored a decent goal from a long throw in, and then it was just great, especially for us as a team. All 3 subs that came on. Were able to combine for the sort of 119th minute winner and be able to celebrate with the fans who made that trip up in January just after Christmas. It's a tough time for a lot of people for them to make the effort to come up to the game and support us, to have that sort of last minute win at joy to go into the next round was it was pretty good. And like you said, it was a good bus trip back with the boys, and one that we're looking forward to tomorrow night to see the draw and see who we get.
Yeah, and I'm sure the Livingston fans who travelled enjoyed their post-match refreshment in the Mallard afterwards. Stephen, just finally, Dundee Derby tomorrow. How do you see that one going? It's not often, I feel, in recent years we've had a Dundee Derby where both teams are going well. It almost seems like one's always up and one's down. Yeah,
really interesting. Dundee United, I think Jim Goodwin's done a brilliant job here. Got them up to 3rd place. Overtaking Aberdeen. They really are in a really good run of form, but I think the really interesting story here is Dundee. Tony Docherty had so many injuries, something like 10 injuries at one point. But I think you look at guys like Adewumi, who's been a brilliant signing from Burnley on loan. You're looking at Josh Mulligan, and you're just looking at players who are really growing in that team. And I think they've just had some really excellent performers. I've got this interesting tie-up with a team in Mexico, and they're beginning to reap the benefits of that. So I think I don't think it's all. I think you're right. I don't think it's often you're looking forward to Dundee Derby as being a potentially excellent game. I think this is one of them.
Yep, and it's live on Sports Sound Monday night, 7 o'clock start, so tune in for that one, and the draw will follow as well. Exciting stuff. Right, finally, let's pay tribute to the former Dunfermline and Aberdeen manager Jimmy Calderwood, who sadly died at the age of 69. Stephen, we talk a lot about characters in the game, and perhaps now maybe there aren't as many of them. Maybe that's unfair, but Jimmy was certainly one of those. What are your memories of him?
Just a good guy. I mean, I think people always remember his formations. He almost felt at times as if he's playing with 8 strikers. He was utterly committed to attacking football. I mean, he did a brilliant job at Dunfermline. I think if you ask Dunfermline supporters, they'll tell you that was the last time the club was absolutely where they'd love it to be. I mean, it came as a financial price to them, but they were like, I think he got them up gradually from the Championship to the Premiership. They went up from 9th to 6th to 5th. They got to 4th and then they went to the Scottish Cup final, where they took the lead for Andrew Skella, and then Celtic, of course, came back through Henry Larsson. He got to move to Aberdeen, where he had one of the best Aberdeen European campaigns in recent memory. I know it's not a deep pool, but 2008, I think, when they drew 2-2 with Bayern Munich. And then, of course, I think he was unfortunate to lose his job at Aberdeen, and he went to Kilmarnock, and I think he won a Challenge Cup with Ross County. So a real character of the game, as you say. And you know what, a good manager as well, who I think just lost his life far too soon to a really crippling disease, which I think raises more questions about the impact it's having in professional footballers and former professional footballers, and what's causing that, and why there is such a high number of ex-pros who are succumbing to it.
Yeah, of course, diagnosed with early onset dementia and as you say, lost far too soon before his 70th birthday. I guess as well, we always remember him for his time in Scotland, but even now we don't get many Scottish managers and coaches abroad, but he was out managing in the Netherlands in the 90s and 2000s, Stephen, which I guess kind of is another mark of of a point of difference or how different he was.
Yeah, he made his mark in the Netherlands. I mean, obviously started around Birmingham City as a midfielder, moved to Holland. He was a coach under Villa and Twee. And it was quite a bold move by Dunfermline bringing him back at that point. It wasn't really the done thing. I think it was possibly a recommendation of David Murray, if I remember rightly. And he came back and the Dunfermline board took a punt on him, and it was more than justified by results and by what he achieved. I think if you said to Dunfermline fans now could go back to those heights, would bite your hand off. So, yeah, he will be missed. And as I say, the circumstances of his death are really sad business.
Yeah, he helped provide Dunfermline and Aberdeen fans with some special memories. He'll be missed. That's Jimmy Calderwood, who sadly died at the age of 69. That's all we've got time for. So many thanks to Stephen McGowan and Ryan McGowan, and thank you for listening. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day, so to make sure you don't miss out, subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on in your phone. Until next time, goodbye.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.